Welcome back to the Bold Moves podcast. We are glad that you're with us today. I have some information that I need to share right out of the gate, if that's okay with you guys. Okay. I'd like to share something exciting, and that is this. I'm going to show it off. I purchased a Rolex.
That thing is shining.
And it's green.
Yes, it is. It is called the Hulk. That's what it's called, the Hulk, because it's green. It's a Rolex. And when I say Rolex, I'm using that term very loosely.
So, like the air quotes,
yes,
Rolex.
It's a
Wolex.
A Wolex. A Folex. I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, 100%.
So, how this went down was we were with some friends in New York City, and we were actually at the Plaza Hotel. Just we didn't stay there. That's a little bit out of our price range. Okay. But we were walking around. That's where Home Alone was. Like the Plaza Hotel. Yep. So we're walking around, hoity-toity place, very, very ritzy. And we asked the people in the lobby, like the valet guys, the bellmen, hey, where would one go to buy a fake Rolex in New York City? And he said, go down to Chinatown.
Go to the ritziest hotel in New York and be like, hey, where do I find the fake stuff?
Yeah. So we had all the wives and kids were wanting to enjoy Central Park. And so we took just a couple buddies and my boys. We jumped in one of those Uber Blacks, high class. Take us to Chinatown, and so we can buy fake Rolexes. And so they dropped us off in Chinatown. We were walking for about a block. Like, that's all it took. A random street in Chinatown. We walked one block, and that's all it took for some random guy, just super seedy looking guy, just walks out of a random doorway with a piece of paper that has been laminated, and it had pictures of Rolexes on it. And he's like, hey, you want to buy a Rolex? And, my buddy just goes, you're exactly the guy we've been looking for. Like, it was fantastic. And so he leaves, he goes back inside this random doorway, comes out about a minute later with literally a plastic grocery bag full of Rolex watches. It was fantastic.
I was really hoping he was wearing like a trench coat and had them attached, and he's like flashing you.
That would be straight out of the movies. Yeah. So he brings these out. We picked out the ones we want. Got a great deal. Yeah. This would resale. I mean, the average price for this would be about $17,000 or $18,000.
No kidding.
I don't want to humble brag. Yeah. But I got my Rolex for $30. So. Deal with that.
It just looks so authentic.
It does. The only real difference I've noticed between this and what I would imagine a real Rolex would be is that when I attempt to set the time on this one, the back of it drops out. So that's really the only difference that I've noticed between this and a real Rolex. So I mean, be jealous. If you guys want to wear it sometime, I'd let you do that.
Are there actually 13 hours on that?
Don't judge. Don't judge the Folex. Okay, so the reason I bring up my Rolex, I know you guys are all secretly jealous of my $30 watch, is that we fight the tendency all the time in life to put on the fake Rolex and prance around in life like, look at my Rolex, I've got it all together. Like, we all put on the mask, or like we all act like everything is better than it is. And let's be clear, social media doesn't help that. You put on all the filters. You only promote and post all the good moments, never the bad moments, because that would be ridiculous.
I mean, we recently had like a family photo session, and I've got two little girls, 3 and 1. And so like, you know how that goes, right?
100%.
The photos are phenomenal. They look so good. Yep. But that's literally like the 2% of time in that entire hour that things were going well. So
true story about a Fisher family photo shoot. I'm just going to leave this here. You can do with whatever you want. Our photo session went so poorly. This was when Jake was about 1.5, 2 years old. Yeah. We never got a picture where all of us were looking at the camera and smiling. They just decided at the end, we will Photoshop Jacob's face over one of the other ones. So our family photo is actually a total fraud. It is literally a Photoshop of a moment that never existed in time.
So funny. Yeah. That's great.
So when we talk about being fake, how do we overcome that? Well, we overcome any fakeness or fraud in our lives by being honest, by being vulnerable, by actually acknowledging, oh, I have a problem and I need to lean in and get this right. And so at Crossroads, we have a ministry that is available to everyone. And it is not just for people with air quote, problems.
Right.
It's for everyone. It is a ministry that helps us work through being fake and actually do the work. Stop living in denial, like, oh, I've got it all together, I'm fine. And really doing the work to help you get to where you need to be.
Because isn't that exhausting? Trying to keep up an appearance, trying to pretend like you're this.
Life?
Yeah, it becomes overwhelming.
Yes.
And typically what ends up happening is people just spiral out of control and it just breaks them one day, right?
Yes.
The goal here is, one, you can recover. If that's happened to you and you've been broken, you can recover from that through this ministry.
Yes.
But also, like, you don't have to go through all of that. Like, you can do the hard work now and never have the like rock bottom moment.
Exactly. So Crossroads Recovery, it exists to help people navigate and heal from all the hurts, habits, and hangups that we experience in life. And those are the three categories that they really lean into and break down. I mean, those are the things that wreck us. Those are things that we have to get a grip on and be honest with about ourselves and with God and work our way through. And not only are you able to heal and work your way through the hurts, habits, and hangups, but you don't have to do that alone. You have people who are holding you accountable, that are cheering you on. Right. And isn't that what the church is supposed to be? I mean, isn't that what we were created? We're not supposed to do this alone. We're better together. And this is the perfect expression of that. And so I love Crossroads Recovery. I love the stories of life change that come out of Crossroads Recovery. It is a fantastic ministry. And I do everything I can, every time I can, every chance I get, I want to celebrate that and cheer on what's happening in Crossroads Recovery. Yeah. What experiences do you guys have with that ministry? How familiar are you with that at Crossroads? Is that something you guys have been a part of at all, or no?
Sure. Like, I've worked at Crossroads for over 8 years now, and for quite a while, at least 3 or 4 years within that stretch, I was one of the primary worship leaders at our Crossroads Recovery ministry. And it's just really cool. Like, I've never, as a worship leader, like, you kind of, one of the ways you kind of judge your success is like, how well does the crowd respond to what you're doing?
Sure.
No crowd ever responds better than the people at Crossroads Recovery. They're so engaged.
Yeah.
They're like right there with you.
They're being real.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good. What about you, Kristen?
I sing every great once in a while. I'm on their schedule to be there. So I'll show up for that. I'll show up when someone is sharing. It's really great to hear people's testimonies, because it's not the same every week. It's different. And you'll hear from or experience people that are going through all kinds of things. Like, you're not going to hear just about alcoholism over and over and over again. It's people have all different stories, and they're very relatable. Yep. They're one of the most forgiving crowds.
Yes, for sure.
And so it's that there's always I don't want to say a comfort. Well, there is a comfort there, but it's an unbelievable experience.
Yeah. So, I mean, to your point, Corey, you don't have to hit rock bottom, but there are a lot of people who have hit rock bottom. For sure. And so it's like this amazing mix of people who really, they're desperate for hope.
Yeah.
You've got people who've been there for a while, who've already started on the rebound. They're in there to help other people go on the same path that they've gone through. And there is something about the authenticity that comes from being vulnerable, from being honest, that really does allow you to experience freedom and the forgiving nature and the culture that they have because of that. It's because no one's there to judge you for what you are or where you've come from or what you've done, because we've all been there, and there's something wrong with all of us at some level that we've all had to work through. So let's help each other get stronger and let God change us. And that's ultimately what we're talking about here. We're celebrating the change that happens when we encounter Jesus and we begin to follow him. And when we start embracing him, the calling that he's placed in our life to follow him, that's when we experience life to the fullest. That's when we experience what we've been created for. That's when I find what I've been looking for. And so to be able to go on that journey with people and help them along the way with our ministry that we have, Crossroads Recovery, it really is. It's really rewarding. And right now, Crossroads Recovery, make no mistake, we're experiencing the greatest days of that ministry right now in the life of our church. It's impacting hundreds of people a week throughout all of our different campuses. And LeCount is the one who is leading the charge for us in Goshen and just crushing it. I mean, she is doing such a good job. And so I wanted to share a conversation I had with Allie. I had a chance to talk with Allie a couple days ago, and I would love to share this conversation and celebrate what's happening in Crossroads Recovery. Let's check this out. Allie, it is great to have you. Welcome to the Bold Moves podcast. We're glad you're with us today. Yeah. Hey, so before we start having a conversation, I just need to brag for a second because you are leading what I would consider to be one of our 5 core ministries at Crossroads, in our ministry that is called Crossroads Recovery. And that is a frontline ministry where when we're talking about celebrating the change, that is where lives are being changed because people are coming to overcome their hurts, their habits, their hangups. I'm not sharing anything with you that you are not aware of, but I'm just trying to catch everybody up to speed. So let's talk about that because you are leading an extraordinary ministry. How does that impact you, Allie? Like, first of all, how did you come to lead that ministry? Because that's a great story too. What are we talking? Let's start there. How did Allie LeCount become the leader of Crossroads Recovery? What's happening there?
That's a great question. I honestly question that every single day. But I started tending just to attend 8 years ago. Me and my husband, we were going through some things, and it was offered to us by our counselor. So we're like, hey, we're willing to try it. And so we started coming, and I dove straight in. I absolutely love this ministry. It's literally for everyone. I always thought it was for just drugs and alcohol, but it's really not. I never had those issues, but I've got many more. And so it's amazing. It helps literally everyone that we all have baggage. It helps us clear out the baggage. And
let's talk about that for a second, because I think that's an important thing to highlight. When we talk about Crossroads Recovery, I think what you just said is probably 90% of people's first reaction. Like, oh, that's for other people. Like, I don't have problems with drugs or alcohol. That's what that is. And it's like, wait a second. No. We all have hurts. We all have habits. We all have hangups. We all have baggage, and it's for everybody. And that's what I love about Crossroads Recovery, because the people who go and say, all right, I need to take a step here. I need to navigate my way through this and figure out how to work through these issues that I'm dealing with. Man, there is so much life change happening and so many victories, so many wins taking place. It's amazing to see that. And when you realize it's for everybody, that's a game changer. Talk to me about that, because you are on the front row. Like, you get the front seat of all these stories, all these lives being changed. What have you been seeing God doing in Crossroads Recovery over the last few months? What's been happening?
People are being restored. Not only has my marriage been fixed and renewed, more marriages are being renewed. I have people coming just for themselves, but their spouses being like, man, I see some change in you. I'm going to join. Good. And so then they join the charge together, and their marriage is better. I see people that are coming in that are, suffering from divorces, but they're finding joy and they're finding hope in a new future with Christ. And so it's great. We've got people overcoming addictions, and it's amazing.
How deep does that go, Allie? Like, I'm a Bears fan. I've been going through a lot of emotional ups and downs.
We went through for that.
Thank you for that. Hey, so talk me through that. For someone who doesn't know anything about Crossroads Recovery, what should they expect when you walk in the door? What's going to happen? What does that night look like? Let's talk through that. I think that's important. What are we doing?
Well, we do dinner. It's a
great start.
Dinner. Donations accepted. It starts at 5:45, and we just do dinner and fellowship with each other. Large group starts. We do a lot of worship. We got a great band. And then we either do a lesson on one of the steps on how we can apply the steps in our lives, or we do a testimony and hear about how God is changing people's lives, which are my favorite nights, to be honest. And then we have small groups for people to get to know people and be able to find people to do life with.
Yeah. Which is a huge win. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that is about as real of authentic discipleship and becoming like Jesus. Like, those are the moments that are beautiful and sacred where those things happen. Like, that is where it is happening. And that's a beautiful thing. Talk me through when you say there's nights when people share their testimonies. Can I just circle something real quick? I love that, because there is power in our story. The greatest story ever told is Jesus, how he came to planet Earth to save us. I believe the second greatest story ever told is the story of how we encounter him. And so when people are sharing their story, They are sharing their experience of how they encountered Jesus. And what that does is that opens the door for other people saying, oh, that person encountered Jesus. I need that. And then they get to encounter Jesus themselves. And so it's an amazing opportunity for breakthrough. And I don't think that we should undervalue that, the power of a testimony. Why is that your favorite? You said that. I love that. Like, talk me through that. What the power of the testimony, and is that anybody? Like, I'm just asking questions like I don't know anything. Who's given their testimony at Crossroads Recovery, Allie? Who's doing that?
It's a lot of people that have gone through. We have this called a step study.
Yep.
And so you go through the step study, and then usually after graduation, you write your story, and then you're able to kind of share it. And it's my favorite because honestly, everybody that steps up there, people are like, oh, I'm not going to be able to relate to this woman. But they do, because they're like, man, yes. I felt that in my life. Maybe I've done those things. And they're like, well, if they can change her, then he can change me, And so like, it's just great to see people like realize that the person that they don't think they relate to, they can. And
absolutely,
they see the light and the hope, and it's amazing. I love those nights.
That's so good. I think one of the stigmas of Crossroads Recovery, I think this is probably more so when we were first starting out, is that like the nervousness that people feel coming in for the first time is like, oh, if I go, I'm going to walk into a room and it's going to be me and like 4 other people, and they're all going to be weird and they're all going to be looking at me. And it's like in your mind, you create this terrible environment, and the reality couldn't be any different. Like, talk me through that experience when you walk through the door for Crossroads Recovery. What's that going to look like? Because I think it's important to kind of picture that in your mind too.
Yeah. So at Crossroads, we've grown so much. Like when I first started coming, there was maybe like 30 people.
Yes.
We're averaging over 120 people every night.
Yes.
And so it's huge. But it's also like when you walk in, a lot of people are going to be afraid to be judged. And that is not the thing on Tuesday. Literally everyone is welcome. We don't care what you're bringing in that door.
Amazing environment.
Yes, it is. We love you. We care for you. And like, this is the place to be vulnerable because it's safe. Yeah. And so that's what you should expect is people just to be like, hey, we love you. We're glad you're here. Let's do life together. Yeah. So
we talk about the culture at Crossroads being full of grace and full of truth, because that's how Jesus came and entered into the world. That was his ministry summed up in John chapter 1. And I think Crossroads Recovery is a beautiful picture of that, because to your point, everyone is welcome. You are not, it's grace. And yet you are zeroing in on, hey, what got us here? Like, I can't live this way anymore. There is some truth telling, and it is all based on the teachings of Jesus. And sometimes those are difficult conversations. Sometimes those are awkward conversations. And yet you've got people who are recognizing, hey, I have a hurt. I have a habit. I have a hang up. I don't want to live this way anymore. I can't live this way anymore. And we are offering them the tools and the answers that they're looking for in real time. And to be able to celebrate that change and walk people through those moments, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Do you have any final thoughts about Crossroads Recovery? Anything that anybody needs to know, Allie? What you got? This is your shot. You can tell the world what you want them to know about Crossroads Recovery.
I think Tuesday is the best night, and literally everyone should come.
Well said, Allie. Hey, thank you for taking time to join us and have this talk. But also thank you for being willing to lead the charge, because Allie, if I can just brag on you, I see you growing just exponentially as a leader. And the way that you're leading is impacting so many people. Like, keep up the good work. I'm so excited about this ministry, and I invite everybody listening to come check it out because it's awesome.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
I really enjoyed my conversation with Allie, and I just have to say it again. She is crushing it. She is a rock star, and is really great at what she's doing there.
Yeah. Her personality is perfect for leading that ministry.
It is. Yeah. And she is dearly loved by her people, and she has a great team. Like, really,
she does.
Our best day, like, we're experiencing our best days, but I believe our best days are right in front of us. Absolutely. Crossroads Recovery is making a huge difference.
It's growing big time.
It is.
Yeah.
And when you talk about that idea of just meeting people where they're at, helping them overcome the hurts, the habits, and the hangups, people are desperate for that right now, for something real, and Crossroads Recovery is offering them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's really great to be able to see real people engage in that way, because we've said this, and we don't just like try to give it lip service, but really it's for everybody.
It is.
Because you have a tendency to want to think like, well, if I don't have that addiction or whatever the thing is, then it's really not for me. But that's not true.
No.
There's so many different issues that we all deal with.
Yep.
Psychiatrists in this country are not, they're in plenty high demand, honestly.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Like we have plenty of issues to work through, and it's certainly a good way to do that. And build your relationship with Jesus as part of it. It's awesome.
100%.
So my favorite piece of at CR is the community aspect. And we talked about this earlier, that we all crave community. Nobody wants to walk through anything alone.
Yep.
Yeah.
And especially when you're feeling down or whatever situation you find yourself in that got you to that point. You don't want to be alone. Like there is somebody that's going to relate to you. And my favorite part at CR is anytime somebody comes and gets their surrender white chip or any other chip, like you don't walk up there to get that alone. Like, I mean, you physically walk up there, but there are people high-fiving you, hugging you,
they're celebrating
the whole way, no matter if you're just starting or if you're on your 10-year.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's awesome.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And I think just to put a cherry on the top of that, I think as we talk about, making bold moves, maybe you're dealing with something and you've been trying to overcome that hurt, that habit, that hang up all by yourself. Maybe the bold move for you is heading to Crossroads Recovery and checking that out, because I'm telling you, there is hope for you. And man, we are better together. And so if you're interested in learning more about that, you can go to our website. It's crossroads.online.
Crossroads.online/recovery.
There it is. Yep. And that's got information for all of our campuses. And it's coming soon in Nashville also, as we're getting that off the ground. So it's fantastic. And maybe that's the bold move that God is asking you to make. Yeah. And just be real.
Just give it a shot, right? I mean, just show up and just see what God might be speaking to you.
That's a good word. Well, hey, we've landed the plane. We had another, I'm just going to say it. We had another at least better than average podcast. It's fantastic. I'm not bold enough to say it's great, but looking at my Rolex, it's about time to wrap this up, even though it doesn't work. I don't think I ever shared that with you guys. It actually does not work at all.
Well, appearances are everything, apparently.
Yeah. I guess that's the other difference between a real Rolex. The back of this falls out when you try to change the time, and then a real Rolex actually keeps the time.
Yeah.
That's good to know. That's the difference between $30 and $17,000. So that's what it is.
I could probably find you a $30 watch that works if you want one.
It's true. I think I might have still gotten ripped off. I love it. Hey, this has been good. Hey, don't forget, if you're trying to overcome a hurt, a habit, or hang up on your own, check out Crossroads Recovery. That could be the best bold move that you make this week. Hey, that's all we got. When comes time to make your move, be bold. Be bold. Bold moves.
Again.
I'm struggling. I don't know how to end these podcasts. I'm in a crisis. We'll see ya.
Be bold.
Be bold.